As a school psychologist, sometimes you wonder, what can I do with kids that is fun and educational, right? So I have a middle school and an elementary school, and I'm here to tell you some board games that are very educational for kids in some ways that you might not expect. So if this sounds interesting to you, stick around because I'm going to go through 6 board games that I use with the kids that I work with to let them have some fun and also learn some things at the same time. The first one I'm gonna go over is Junior Monopoly. So I feel like most of us have played at least regular Monopoly. Here's the cool thing about Junior Monopoly. It's fast, it's not gonna take forever to go through, and there's cute little pieces, so the kids love it. The one I have, you know, they have the hat, the dog, the car, and the little cat that you can play as. And basically, as soon as you land on a spot that isn't occupied, you have to buy it. And in the end, whoever loses money first, the game ends, and then you rank whoever has the most money, and that's the order that they won in. So here is where the educational part comes in. There are some kids that are having trouble with counting, so just moving the spaces like one at a time, that's them counting, all right? So like you rolled a 6, all right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're learning how to count. Also, it makes them pay attention because you have to see, like, does someone own that space? No, you have to buy it. Or someone owns that space and you owe them $2, so count your money. 1, 2. Who are you giving that to? So it teaches a lot of like cues for paying attention, counting, and kind of responsibility too, because they're responsible for paying that person or making sure that that spot is paid so that then they can own it. And rotating around, they have to make sure that they get their $2 when they pass by go. So I really do think it helps a lot. And these games, I have them all at the elementary school. Some of them I think they could be played with middle schoolers too, especially depending on the age and maybe like where they're functioning. But the kids love playing these games, the elementary school kids that I work with. The next one I think is a favorite of a lot of people as well, Connect 4. So I feel like this helps to teach logic skills, because a lot of the kids when they're really small, they think you're just gonna win getting 4 across this way or 4 up and down, and they forget about the diagonal. But I notice the more we play, or if I play with the older kids, they start to catch on, because there have been times where I didn't even catch what they were doing and they trapped me, so they could win either going up and down or diagonal. And I love it. I'm like, yes, look, you're using those skills. But again, it kind of teaches that paying attention and logic skills, because you can plan ahead, like how those students are, where they're like, okay, I'm gonna set it up so that no matter what, I'm gonna win going one way or the other. And even if they lose, it's still fine, because then it's like they're learning, like, oh, I could win this way. How did she do that? How didn't I notice that? So I noticed that a lot with the younger kids. Like when they are losing, they're like, okay, well, how did that happen? How did she win? How can I win? And I think that helps a lot with getting them to think ahead and to plan ahead. Another board game that I have is Trouble. I like playing this game with kids that I work with that kind of have trouble with waiting and difficulty with being patient, because this does teach them that. Since at least how we play, I think this is how you're supposed to play. You cannot go initially unless you roll a 6. So if you press it and it's not a 6, then the next person goes until the first person rolls that number. Then you can move your space onto the start, and then then you can start moving around. And it also helps them make a decision, because let's say they have one piece moving around the board, they can't take another one of their pieces and move it to that start position unless they roll a 6, but they don't have to. They can also use that piece that's already out and move it 6 spaces, or use it to bring out one of their new pieces. And I think that helps a lot, because I see differences in the kids decision making. Like some of them, they're like, no, like I just want to get to the end, so they might just go really fast and not bring out new pieces. Some of them I see they're like, you know what, I'll move a couple. Anytime I get a 6, I'm gonna move the 1 out because I might be able to get them around the board faster. And also the patience part, because they all just want to go, especially in the beginning, but it's like, no, you have to wait until you roll a particular number. And I don't know if it helps them in the classroom, but while we're playing the game, it does help them to wait their turn and learn, like, I'll be able to go eventually. I don't know when I'll be able to go, but at some point I'll land the number that I need to be able to move ahead. Candyland is another one that I love playing with the kids, but I like playing this with the really small kids. So like if they're in kindergarten or if they're in 1st grade, because they are still learning those basic like counting skills. So just having them like, okay, you got this color. We have the Candyland. There's, I think, a couple different versions. We have the one though where you pick up the card and it has the color on it. So you have to move to the next available space with that color. So it helps a lot because it's like, what is that color? Oh, I have to find it. Now, how many spaces am I moving? Because some of them will count it. So then I could teach them the counting skills and some of them will just drag it over. But I think it sets that basis of, okay, what am I doing? I have to pay attention to what I'm doing and how am I gonna get there? And sometimes you might get a special card that has like a star on it or ice cream and it moves you ahead, but then you get another special card and it's like, oh wait, it's moving me back. So it still kind of throws in that like, what's gonna happen? Am I gonna win first? Am I gonna have to move back? But it's really good, I feel like, when I'm working with the kindergartners and the 1st graders, because it sets them up for that. And also that turn taking and realizing that it's okay to win, it's okay to lose, we're having fun. It teaches them all of those basic skills when it comes to sharing, taking turns, and then also just paying attention and following the directions. Uno is a very beloved one. So I have BTS Uno, but that's just because I love BTS and I notice a lot of the kids do too. So it works out because they get excited when they see all the members on the cards. They call them the characters and I'm like, no, they're the members of a group. They crack me up. But anyway, Uno is good for a lot of different reasons. You really have to pay attention, especially towards the end when you're playing. You know, if you have one card, you have to say Uno, because if someone else says it first, then you got to draw another card. So you know, that quickness, speediness, paying attention, and also just like being able to change the rules. So I like playing this. This is definitely something you can play with the middle schoolers, but I was gonna say with my 4th, 5th grade and older. The younger kids, it's more difficult, but I think this teaches them those like higher thinking skills. It also helps with strategizing. Like, how am I gonna win? You might have a wild card, a draw 4, and then a whole mix of other colors, right? But maybe they put down a card that matches the number of a different color that you have more of. Okay, put that down, get rid of all that color, and then put the wild card down, change it to like that last color that you need, you know, something like that. But there's so much that you can learn from Uno. And then I've noticed it also definitely teaches a lot of turn taking skills, because I did it with my behavior group. I mean, I do it with all the kids, but one of the times when I had my behavioral groups, I played that game with them and they liked it. But sometimes they would get mad, like, oh my gosh, you only have one. How did that happen? Or, you know, they think they're cheating and it's like, no, we're not cheating in here. If you don't win this time, that's okay. You can win the next time. You never know like what's gonna happen, but it's good to teach them too. Like, this is all fun. We are learning and we are having fun. No reason to get angry, because that's a game that could get a lot of people heated, I feel like. So very good with trying to teach them how to stay calm when playing games like that. And the last game I'm going to talk about that I have is called Emotional Roller Coaster, and this is meant to be educational, but I put this in here because I don't think a lot of people know about this game. So the Emotional Roller Coaster game, it's kind of just like a regular board game where you're moving around, but each space has an emotion on it. So it might say like happy, stress, and there's a book in it, or not a book, but there's like a little sheet in it that tells you what each emotion means so that you could read that to them. And you're supposed to talk about a time where you experience that emotion when you land on it. So if you did land on happy, for example, it's like, okay, I landed on happy. What's something that happened to me before that made me happy? You land on angry. What's something that happened before that made me angry, right? And then there's cards that have coping skills. So on it, it teaches you different ways that you can cope with an emotion. So if you are on the board and you happen to land on a space that is a negative emotion, if I'm remembering this correctly, you can use one of the coping cards in this situation, because there's situations on some of them where it's like, oh, this happened and now you're upset about it, you know? And when I play with them, I have them talk through it. Like, we read through it anyway, regardless. And I say, like, what would you do? But then if you had a coping card that you got, it will give you a technique. And it's like, oh, well, if this negative event happened and it's going to make you mad, for example, you can take this coping card and use it to feel better. So it just really, I think, helps students to realize their emotions and then know how to cope and open up about the emotions. And there's so many on there that it might get them thinking about ones that they didn't know how to express themselves, and now they know a word for it. And they also can learn a way to cope with it. Like I said, I do it a little differently. Like, I definitely go around the board and I use what the coping cards are, but we go through, if there's a group of us, we'll go through each of the scenarios and be like, well, what would you do? Has this ever happened to you? What are some things you think you can do? And if they had a coping card that they were able to pick up from rolling a turn and landing on that before, then we'll use them. And you can also do this, right? So I think that's an amazing game. And like I said, that one is meant for educational purposes, but I don't think a lot of people even know about that game. So I just wanted to bring that out there for you. So I know these games are just regular family fun, friendly games that we probably all played growing up, but I think it's good even just to play it with the kids, because sometimes you're like, oh, like people might come in and just think we're just playing games and having fun, which yes, we are playing games and we are having fun, but these games that I picked are also teaching them skills as well. And I think that is very helpful in the environment. And then on top of that, when I send them back to class, they're usually in a much better and lighter mood. So I play with these kids for a bunch of reasons, like if they're in my group, if sometimes kids want to come down when they have their lunch. So you want to play a game when we're playing lunch, there you go. Like, that's your free time, you know, where I'm not taking them away from their education. So they can come down and do that with me during their lunch period. Sometimes I'll get them because they're just like really upset in class. They need a break away from class so that they don't get in trouble and they need somewhere to go. So then we might play the game really quick, like a quicker game. I wouldn't bring out Monopoly in a time like that because they're not supposed to be with me for that long. Or if I get one of those alerts where the kid was called down for like a suicide threat or something like that, where I had to do an assessment, you know, we could do it. And if there's usually a bunch of us, we need some time in between because we can't let them go anywhere while we're calling the parents and all these other people we have to call. But we already asked the student all the questions. Instead of just having them sit there, let's play a game while you're there, you know, that you could just kind of relax while we are doing the paperwork and filling out all the other forms before we figure out what we have to do next. So I really hope that this video was helpful for you. I know it's a little different, but I just thought I should share this because this is one of the things I do a lot at the elementary schools. Like I said, not so much at the middle school because I don't even have the games there at the middle school. They're all at the elementary school, but I just think it's a really good way to open up kids. And sometimes you might even have these games and think, is this even helping them? And yes, it is. Even if it's small, it's still helping them and it's still teaching them. So I just wanted to let you guys know that. I hope that you found this helpful, and I thank you so much for watching. Always appreciate all of you for watching so much. Bye guys.